What's up everybody, I'm Adam, you're watching the Model Aviator channel. In this week's Quick Look Fun Flight episode, we'll be checking out a brand new release from Hobby King. This is the Flycat version 2 Sport Jet. This one is in the 70mm EDF size class, and it has many improvements over the original version. Let's take a look. The Flycat V2 has just a little over a 1 meter wingspan, around 41 inches, and it weighs about 4¼ pounds, ready to fly with a lighter weight battery in the battery range. It is obviously a sport jet, so it's pretty fast. I still think the safest place to fly something like this is going to be a sanctioned flying area or some really large area where you know that there aren't people or property around to damage or hurt. Of course, you need to be aware of whatever laws govern model flying where you live. Hobby King sells this as a plug and fly, which means all of the electronics are pre-installed for you except for a receiver. You need to pick the radio protocol and install your receiver of choice yourself. Obviously a full range receiver is recommended, being that this is a jet and it can get out there pretty quick. It is a 5-channel airplane out of the box. You have elevator, rudder with a steerable nose wheel, ailerons, throttle control, and retractable gear. There is an extra lead coming off the ESC, a signal wire that you can plug into a 6-channel to incorporate thrust reverse if you like. The OG Flycat was a very simple airplane. It didn't have landing gear, you hand launched it. It didn't have rudders, it was a bank and yank, and it had a very interesting paint scheme. Let's just leave it at that. One of the nice improvements of the V2 is a brand new paint scheme. I think this is very attractive, and there's a lot of contrast between top and bottom, so staying oriented with this jet in any color sky is pretty easy to do. They've added rudders to the V2. You have one on each of those twin booms, so that opens up some maneuvering capability that we didn't have before. And this one is equipped with a 70mm 12-blade fan, a 2860-2100 kV in-runner motor, and an 80-amp Aerostar RVS G2 ESC. This is a hotter setup than the OG, so this one has more power than the original, but by far and away, the nicest improvement to this airplane is it has retractable landing gear. Every legitimate 70mm sport jet should, and now it does. The recommended battery range is 6L 3000 to 5000. It has a convenient magnetic top-loading hatch and a battery bay that is large enough, but I will say this, when you get into the 5000 milliamp packs, it has to be a compact 5000 to get it in there. I've got some 5000s that are simply too big to fit, so that's something you need to be aware of. The Flycat V2 is a new airplane, but it is a little bit of an older design, and the assembly reflects that. There is a decent amount of gluing involved with this airplane. You can download a full manual on a PDF file on the Hobby King website on the sales page for the Flycat V2. It has great instructions and diagrams and makes that easy. You'll have to glue the wing keepers into the fuselage. You'll have to glue the twin booms on. You'll have to glue the high-mounted horizontal into place. The wings screw on, but plugging the aileron up is a little bit fiddly and stowing the wires away underneath. So I would just leave them on. It's just over 1 meter wingspan, pretty easy to store and transport as is. And if you retract the gear, it's even easier to store and transport. Now, one thing that I did do when it comes to that nose wheel retract, I did relieve this area to give the linkage for the steering of the nose wheel retract more room to move to get in and out of that retract bay. And they were getting hung up after I did that. They didn't get hung up anymore, so you may want to do that to yours if you're having that issue. When it comes to setup, all of the push rods are pre-installed on all these parts that you're going to glue into place. You don't have to do that. They have ball links on them if you need to adjust them to center them after you install your receiver. We fly Spectrum, so we installed a Spectrum AR631 Plus AS3X Plus receiver. We are utilizing AS3X Plus. Here are our settings for the Flycat as far as that is concerned, in case you fly Spectrum. The rest of our setup is as follows. When it comes to CG, We are 85 millimeters from the leading edge of the wing just outside the boom straight back. We found that just easier to measure that than to do what the quick setup guide suggests, which is to measure from the nose back. So that's where we're at there. We are at 100% rates, 20% expo on aileron. We are at 85% rates, 15% expo on elevator, and 100% rates, 30% expo on rudder. We did not make any mechanical adjustments over stock. Pretty simple setup. When it comes to the flight characteristics of the Flycat V2, we'll go into more detail during the fun flight demo, but we will touch on a couple of things. We did try to get a 5,000 milliamp pack in that battery bay, and our smallest 5,000 pack will fit, but we didn't fly it on a pack that heavy. We flew it on 3,200, 3,600, and 4,000 milliamp packs. I like the airplane with all those. I will say my least favorite is a 4,000 pack. I prefer the two lighter packs. We put those all the way back in the battery bay, and that's where we achieve that balance point that we told you about. One interesting thing about that is the landing gear is just barely behind that balance point, so it's a little tippy. The nose kind of bounces up and down a bit. Looks kind of funny taxiing on a rough runway, but it's not a big deal. You have twin rudders and a steerable nose wheel, so holding the airplane on line on takeoff and landing rollout is very easy to do. Now, one thing I will point out on the landing rollout, there is an access hatch right here that's magnetic that gives you access to your ESC. If you are utilizing thrust reverse, if you don't tape that down, this is what happens. It will blow it right off. So we used 2 pieces of clear gloss Scotch tape right there to hold that down. If you need access after you put the tape down, you don't have to pull the tape up and pull the paint up. Treat it like an ultra micro. Just cut it on the seam, remove the hatch, do what you have to do. When you put the hatch back, just put 2 new pieces of tape over the old ones and all good. You don't pull any paint up. When it comes to skill level, this airplane is a very easy airplane to fly. It has a very docile stall characteristic. We think that if you are somebody coming off a trainer and you're looking to get into sport jets, this might not be the best sport jet for somebody like that, but if you have a little bit more experience, it would be a great first sport jet. Obviously, for experienced pilots, you're going to have a blast with this thing. We did. It's very capable. It can do almost everything. It doesn't knife edge as well. It won't sustain one for super long, but it will do everything else really well. We had a really good time flying it. When it comes to flying it with or without a gyro, we were on a little bit of a time crutch to get this thing flown and filmed, so I didn't have a chance to put as much time on a pure airframe setup as I normally would. I think with more time, I could tune this airplane to fly pretty doggone good without a gyro, but as you might expect with the AS3X Plus, it is much smoother, much more, I hate to use the overused adage, locked in, but it is. That's just a really good way to describe it. It's just more locked in with it than without it. Now, when it comes to price point, there's an introductory offer, $219. I think that is a splendid price point for a 70mm sport jet that is different than every other sport jet you're going to see. Looks good, it flies good, it's relatively full featured, doesn't have LEDs, but for $219, that's okay. It still has a bright paint job, it's easy to see, and we really had a blast flying it. So if you'd like to add one to your hangar, we'll put some links in the description where you can do just that. When you go through those links, it lets Hobby King know you like what we're doing. It helps support our channel, and Heidi and I appreciate it. Thank you very much. The Fun Flight demo is next. We had a great time flying it. We think you'll enjoy watching it fly, and if you get one, we think you'll enjoy flying as much as we did. That's it for us. Take care of yourselves. Happy flying. We'll see you next week with something cool with wings. Enjoy the flight. We're actually going to show you a couple of flights. The first one is with the lightest pack, the 3200 6L, and you can see that nose is very light, kind of bounces up and down as you taxi. You could put a battery farther forward and maybe stop some of that, but then the airplane might not fly the same. You'll see here on the takeoff roll, it's no problem. we're going to set up and do a slow pass, and then right after that we'll do a fast pass coming the other way. Flycat V2 has good speed and vertical. I will say when you're inverted, it takes a bit more down elevator than normal to maintain inverted flight, but there's still plenty left over to push out. Those rudders come in handy when you want to tumble it. Here we're going to set up for a 1G power off stall, and as you can see, it just drops the nose straight forward, doesn't even threaten to drop a lane. Very easy to recover, very docile stall characteristic. It flares really nicely. It makes doing touch and goes a lot of fun. Very easy to get that nose up and hold that nose wheel off if you want. The thrust reverse on this one is very effective as well. You engage it and it's like you're putting the brakes on pretty hard. Got another flight coming at you. This next one is with the slightly heavier 3600. It's very efficient. We could get 4 to 4.5 minutes on the 3200 and around 5.5, close to 6 on the 3600 with proper throttle management. It's very stable slow. We had a bit of wind, and the AS3X Plus admittedly was helping us a bit there. The Flycat is properly aerobatic. It's a lot of fun to fly, a crisp roll rate, really fun to take through maneuvers. One of the things I like most about it is it's really different. It just doesn't look like any other sport jet out there. This is a really unique, fun addition to the 70mm sport jet genre, and we've really enjoyed showing it off for you. We think you'll enjoy one if you decide to put one in your hangar. That's it for us. Take care of yourselves. We'll see you next week.